Welcome, friends, to Street Food Stories, where we dive into the sizzling, smoky world of food trucks, street food, and the diversity of flavors found on streets across America. We're your hosts, Craig and Jamie Joe, and each episode will uncover the tales behind the tacos, the secrets in the sauce, and the passion on every plate. Join us as we chat with industry leaders and celebrate the spirit of street food that brings us all together. This is Street Food Stories. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever episode of Street Food Stories. I'm Jamie Joe with the Tennessee Cobbler Company.
And I'm Craig Joe with the Tennessee Cobbler Company.
We will be your hosts for Street Food Stories. We own a food truck in Nashville, Tennessee, the Tennessee Cobbler Company, and we decided to launch a podcast and tell the story of food truck life.
Yeah, we're going to do some trucks in Middle Tennessee, try to reach out across the country and see how that's going around the country and stuff too. So it's not just going to be in Tennessee. So
yeah, it'll be nationwide. We'll talk about all things street food and showcase some of our friends in the trucking industry as well. And I know this is like kind of a chaotic first episode because I'm bundled up at home. As you can see, I'm a crazy mess today because I had on a beanie earlier. It's freezing in Nashville, and Craig is actually on the truck because it's snowing today and everything shuts down in Nashville when there's ice and snow around. So we live real close to our food truck and didn't want our employees to drive in the nasty weather. So as you can see, this is what Craig is working in today. So he's over at the truck. Hanging in there. Is it cold?
Yeah, the semi-permanent spot. It's pretty chilly. The whole place is covered in snow, so it's a lot of fun. Though the pub right next to us, Village Pub, is packed. So they're usually packed on snow days. So we get a bunch of patrons coming over drinking, and then they come over and get some cobbler and take it back. They allow them to take it back into the pub and stuff. So
well, anyway, so we're gonna host this thing. We're not together. He's over at the truck and I'm at home, but we already had this scheduled when everything kind of went south, and so we figured, you know what, we're just gonna go forth with it. He might have to step away and take care of some customers. So today's episode, it is kind of an intro episode just to talk about our story. Since we're going to be telling food truck stories, we figured we might as well start with our own and how we met, how we got started in the industry, and where we are now. So you want to take this one and tell how we first got started?
I'll let you do it. You tell a little better than I do.
Well, me and Craig actually met in 2012 when I first moved to Nashville. He was like literally like the first person I met. I came into town and didn't have a job and got on Facebook to post that I had made it safely to Nashville. Saw an ad that a local restaurant was hiring, and I thought, well, I can wait tables. I'll go in the next day. So I went in, got interviewed, was hired on the spot, and I think it was like right after my interview, they were walking me through the kitchen, introducing me to folks, and Craig was the first person that I actually met. 2.5 years later, we got married, or about almost 3 years later, we got married. And so that was in 2015. And at our wedding, we served old-fashioned Southern desserts. So we did have wedding cake and stuff, but we had a lot of my grandmother's recipes that me, my mom, and my aunt had baked the night before. And so we served those, and it was a hit. Everyone to this day still talks about, when they talk about our wedding, they talk about the desserts. So Craig wanted to be a food trucker. He wanted to own a food truck, and I always loved to bake for everybody. So we decided, you know what? There's not really anything in Nashville like this, so we'll do a Southern dessert truck. At the time, there wasn't a couple other trucks, I think, doing some desserts and sweet stuff similar, but nothing that was solely just the cobblers and ice cream, not in the way that we wanted to.
It was mainly just ice cream and frozen desserts. There wasn't really a savory, not savory, but like a hot dessert or anything other than snow cones and ice cream.
Yeah. So we launched the Tennessee Cobbler Company, and we bought our first truck, Sweet Loretta, in 2016. And then we didn't get it on the road until 2018 because we were doing a lot of the work ourselves. We were really new to the industry. So Craig was building stuff, and it took us a little bit longer than we expected, but we took our time and we launched that on the road in 2018. Fast forward, we now have 2 different units, technically 3, but that's another story. So we bought Sweet Pea in 2021.
Yeah, I think it was after the pandemic. So
yeah, the pandemic is when we went full time in food trucking. So we were still working at the restaurant. We were just doing it part time on the weekends, and then we got laid off because of COVID and went full time food trucking. Which I don't know about everywhere else, but I know in Nashville, Tennessee, 2020 was like the best year for food trucking ever because we could go to people, they could not come to us. So as they couldn't go out to restaurants.
Most of the restaurants were shut down, like brick and mortars were shut down. We could go into the neighborhoods and it's basically to go food. So all these brick and mortars were still doing to go food, or some of them were, but we were basically to go food and people could just come.
Well, they could pre-order too. That was a really cool thing. Like using a lot of the pre-order apps, whether it be BFT or Street Food Finder, people could pre-order and then just literally pay online. It was cashless. Everything was, how they wanted it in the neighborhoods. They would just walk up, pick up their order, and leave. So it was a really good year. And that's when we decided, okay, I think we can do this full time. So when they called us to come back, we didn't go back to our other job. And then fast forward another year or so, we decided we needed a second truck. And that was, oh my goodness. He's actually working on that truck right now. So I don't want to talk too bad about her because she's a good old gal now, but oh my goodness.
We just had a lot of mechanical issues. It needed an engine. We knew when we bought it, we needed an engine. So we swapped out the engine and there was just problems with that engine. And we found out too late for it to be under warranty. And I mean, there's nothing we could do. So
yeah,
it just took a
while. That truck probably took us a year and a half almost to get going. And it was supposed to be something pretty simple, but it just, like 4 or 5 different starters. I mean, there was like, what all did we do? We did put a brand new engine in it.
Yeah, the engine was brand new, but that engine, the brand new engine we finally figured out that it was the fuel injection that was messed up on the new engine. So they fixed the fuel injection system, fuel pump or whatever, and then that fixed it. But it shouldn't have been anything because that was a brand new engine. Rebuilt. Yeah. It was rebuilt, but it was a brand new engine. So
well, that truck was absolutely a disaster. And I mean, that was like taking the wind out of the sails because everything had been going so great. And then all of a sudden, here's problem after problem. And you expect some problems, but it just was never ending. I mean, it was, oh my gosh. So anyway, finally, we decided we got it fixed, but it wasn't necessarily like reliable enough to book for weddings and things that you really need to be reliable for. So we decided to look for a permanent spot that we could park it. And while we were searching for that, actually someone reached out to us and asked us about parking on 12 South in Nashville, which if you're familiar with is a really boutique-y neighborhood. A lot of people joke that it's the Rodeo Drive of Nashville. It's a great area. We love that area. And they had a little alleyway they wanted kind of revitalized, or they wanted a truck to park on. And our deal was, if you let us revitalize it and clean it up, then we'll definitely park there and become part of the neighborhood. So we did. And that was a huge blessing. We stayed there for a little over 2 years.
Over 2 years.
Or about a year and a half. It was about a year and a half, I think. Not quite 2 years. So I loved that area. I don't know if I loved it.
Yeah. I love our little patio and everything. We put some turf down. I don't know if you got a picture of it you can put up, but it was really cute.
Yeah, I really loved that neighborhood. And things were going great. Everyone was very welcoming there. So we decided to buy a third truck, and we were going to launch that on the east side of Nashville, which is closer to our neighborhood. And so we bought the third truck and we were having it built out, and some grumpy old lady down the street in 12 South. She was a grumpy old lady in 12 South. Sorry, is what she was. Didn't like our truck being in 12 South. We were in the edge of an alleyway, and there were very, very little traffic came out of that alley, but there was maybe 1 or 2 cars a day.
It's like a one-way. So there's the alley like behind the houses. So it was like a one-way, only one car could fit. So it's the only way out of their houses, I guess, from the backside, because most of the houses in 12 South have their garages on the back side of their house and the alleys, not on the front side. So it blocked the alley sometimes. And
well, people that were in line, when people would stand in line, our window faced to the alleyway. So sometimes people would spill out into the alleyway. Now, granted, obviously, when a car would come by, people would move out of the way. They would shift up close to the truck. It was never an issue.
It was never busy. Like, it was not busy at all. Like when a car came, people would move. It wasn't.
People would move. I mean, you would get like, so if you've ever been to 12 South, you would have swaths of people. There would be like a group of 2 or 4, and then a group of 15. There's a lot of bachelorette parties that come to Nashville. That's where they go. They flock to 12 South. So we had a lot of those types of customers, a lot of tourists, and they would swing by in groups oftentimes. But then, I mean, like I said, the line would clear out really fast. But nonetheless, she had emailed us and complained about it. And so I addressed her concerns. We adjusted the truck. We shifted back some. We put up these like mirror things to make sure that their, line of sight was clear. And I guess that was like a few months before, but I guess she wasn't happy with that. So she called the codes department on us, and codes came out.
She contacted the city council person in that district. So
no, that's right. He contacted codes because he just forwarded the complaint. When she complained about us, she called her council person, and then he forwarded it over to codes. Well, codes came out and discovered that the lot we were on, which we had no idea, and our landlord didn't know this either, but our landlord was different than the property owner. So the property owner had allegedly changed the zoning on this lot several years ago, and no one knew it. Yeah, it was back in 2015, 2014, something like that. But he had changed the zoning permit on the lot and made it where no food was allowed to be served on the lot.
It's very strict. It was like only office and like retail or something. Like no food at all could be on there.
Yeah, it was there's different types of like zoning permits that they give, and I guess there's some that could be all encompassing where food could have been on there, but he didn't elect to do that. He elected the one that was absolutely no food. So when codes came out and saw where we were parked, they were like, it's a zoning issue. You can't be here. So we called the landlord and talked to them about it, and the city said they're going to have to come back before the Metro Planning Council and request a zone change, and this was going to cost a lot of money, a lot of months, and the property owner would be the one to have to do that. But I think he lives, I want to say LA or somewhere, like he's not here in Nashville. He's nowhere near here. That was a no-go. And so in the meantime, we had already signed a lease on our other lot and on the east side because we were going to put the third truck there.
I mean, it was kind of fortunate that we had it lined up, so we just moved Sweet Pea over to the east side.
Right. That night when they got the notice that we had to shut down immediately because this came out of nowhere, Metro actually just came by and slapped a stop work order notice on our truck. So I went to freaking out, like, what's happening? Oh my gosh, what did we do wrong? After a couple hours of talking to different people, making phone calls with the city, this was at I should say, this all happened at like 4 p.m. on a Friday afternoon. So we get this stop work order notice. We're going into the weekend. And I can't
do anything about it.
Do what?
Wasn't it like a holiday or something too? I don't remember.
I want to say it was. I want to say maybe it was like
we were out of town.
I don't remember, but we spent the better part of the next few hours, just trying to call people and figure out what's going on. And once we figured that out, the guy was basically, sorry, like he told me, I think you have 30 minutes to get downtown if you want to try to deal with it.
Right.
And I was like, well, okay. I mean, I get it. Like they are just doing their job. I think I was just really frustrated the way that it was handled. Like there was obviously there was no warning, or there was no like even just trying to say, hey, we received this complaint. This is what's happened. And you may not be doing anything else wrong. However, there's a zoning issue now. So her complaint triggered a zoning issue. The zoning issue we couldn't fix. So in the meantime, we called an attorney and they said, well, get your truck off the lot because we could still serve. We just couldn't serve on that lot. So we moved that truck over to the new lot that we had signed a lease on literally like the week before so that we could put our third truck on. And then we stopped work on the third truck. So we have a partially built out third truck. If anyone's looking for a food truck,
yeah.
I think we're going to sell that one. But yeah, that's how we ended up with 2.5 food trucks in Nashville, Tennessee. So now we have our mobile unit that's available for bookings and weddings and stuff. And then we have our pop-up location on the east side, which is at 1312 McGavick Pike in East Nashville. You guys come see us. And yeah, things are going good.
It actually worked out good because like the 12 South lot was probably about 20 minutes away from our commissary. And this one The one on the east side is like 7 minutes from the
Yeah,
commissary, not 5 minutes from the commissary. So
it's definitely much more convenient.
it's not that hard to drive it over and do, because our commissary is right around the corner. We can do our gray water, do our fresh water, and all that stuff, and drive it right back. So it's
Yeah.
it's worked out really well.
Yeah. So that's kind of our story in a nutshell of how we got the trucks. And I know that was kind of a lot of information, but that's from beginning to now. That's kind of what's happened. And me and
And
Craig
along
have
the way,
been.
I mean, we've met so many our food truck family. Like, we can't wait
Mm-hmm.
to introduce you to like some of our best friends in the food trucking scene in Nashville. It's got such a robust and diverse food trucking scene in
Mm-hmm.
Nashville. It's pretty
Nashville's
awesome.
definitely one of the top markets in the US. So it's definitely a food truck scene to watch. If you are not familiar with the Nashville food truck scene, I definitely recommend, when you come here, look up food trucks, look up the local trucks. Like, there's so many amazing food trucks here, but we've been very blessed over the course of our food truck and life here in Nashville. We're pushing, let's see, gosh, it'll be 9 years
Yeah.
this year. Or no, yeah, 9 years. This year will be
I
9
feel like
years.
an
So
OG, because we're not quite the food trucker, original food truckers. That was
yeah.
probably a generation before us. There was a
Like
set of
2010.
yeah,
I
there
think
was like
2010 is when it kind of started happening in Nashville.
yeah, there was a set of food trucks like that are kind of known around Nashville as like the originals, and we're kind of like the second or third wave of that. So, but there's a ton of new trucks coming up too that we don't even know yet. So we're gonna have to
Mhm.
introduce ourselves and get to know them too. So it's been really
It's
fun.
I love food trucking. I have my highs and lows. I'm not gonna lie. I have my days. Okay, be right back. So as Craig takes care of a customer there, I'll tell you just kind of about how we feel about food trucking. Obviously, like, I love food trucking. It's my passion. I just like serving people. I've always been involved in a job that required me to serve others, and I just think that's really an awesome way to spend my days. However, food trucking is not for the faint of heart, and I do have those days where I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I don't want to do this anymore. This is too much." Owning your own food truck is different than working on a food truck, obviously, and no one's ever going to care about your baby as much as you do. So it's definitely a passion project, for those that want to get into food trucking. It's not something that I would just say, "Yeah, sure, pick up and go for it." Really consider the amount of time and effort and energy that's gonna go into it, but it is rewarding at the end of the day. So, definitely look into it if that's something that you think you might wanna do. Feel free to chat with us about it, like, send us a message. We'll help as much as we can. We've actually been pretty active in advocacy for food trucks in Nashville over the past few years. We were very blessed to be able to work on some legislation. So we actually worked on getting a bill passed in Tennessee for statewide food truck permits. I was president of the Nashville Food Truck Association for 2 years. And during that tenure, I fought really hard to get a statewide food truck permit. However, we didn't quite achieve that goal. The first year, it got shot down at the state legislature. But the second year, we went back and asked for a statewide fire permit instead. And that one we were able to get passed. So that was a huge accomplishment. We were so excited about that. You can actually check that out on our YouTube channel. We have a little bit about that as far as how to get your state food truck permit for Tennessee. You can check that out over there on our YouTube channel. And that was a unique experience because I had never dealt with trying to get a law passed. And so I actually had reached out to, I was in Florida. Let me back up. I was in Florida and I was visiting my family there and had seen an article online about some legislation that Florida was passing and that the Institute for Justice had helped them. And so I reached out to the Institute for Justice and just kept emailing and calling until I could find someone that would call me back. And an attorney from there called back and said, "Hey, we're working on food truck legislation. What can we do? What do you guys need?" And that kind of launched, the whole thing. That's how it happened. So yeah, that was a big blessing. Let me check back in with Craig real quick here. Oh, he's still taking care of some customers. So yeah, that was a huge blessing that the Institute for Justice was able to help us out on that, because I would have had no idea how to navigate through getting a law passed. But I hope that's been very beneficial for food truckers in Tennessee. I know for us it has, because if you're not familiar, in Tennessee, you have to have a food truck permit and a food truck fire permit for every municipality in which you serve. So if I wanted to serve in Franklin one day, I have to have their city permits. If I wanted to serve in Nashville one day, I have to have those city permits. So with the fire permits especially, it gets really redundant. I mean, they're all redundant, if you ask me. There really should just be a statewide food truck permit that we get, as well as a statewide fire permit, and we can serve anywhere in the state. However, we are not allowed to do that. So we have to get all these different permits throughout the year. And when you serve quite a bit of different, area in like Middle Tennessee, we were getting 10, 15 food truck permits every year, and you have to pay for each of them separately. Same thing with the fire permits. So if I was getting that many food truck permits, I had to have that many fire permits. And they were just over and over the same inspections we would have done. And with the statewide fire permit, thankfully, they recognized that it doesn't make sense to have that many fire permits. Why did I have 6 fire permits if these people are all certified through the state and they're all qualified to do this? But the problem was, in Tennessee, all the all the fire departments operate off of a different system, like off of a different fire permit code. And so, from my understanding, some may operate off of the 2016 code, but other cities may operate off of like the 2020 code. So, as long as they're within 6 years of the current code, they don't have to update their codes. So, you get to a place where, like, I'm an example here, Nashville, they may operate off of the 2024 codes, and they wouldn't accept the Franklin fire permit because that one didn't operate off of 2024 codes. They only operated off the 2020 codes. So it just got really nuanced, and a lot of places would not accept other fire permits. And now with the statewide one, it's kind of seen as like the golden permit. If you have that one, you have the top tier permit. And it's accepted statewide. So we were actually super, super excited to get that passed and work on that. And yeah, so that was probably, I would say, our greatest accomplishment in food trucking. I feel like I'm very proud of that. I'm very happy that we were able to see that through to the end. So that was a really exciting year. We worked so hard on that and had so many meetings and legislative sessions and committee hearings and all the different things. So I love advocating for food trucks and small business owners just in general. I think that's really where the passion came from, was I like to advocate for the little guy. And sometimes those food truckers, are seen as the little guy. So it was very exciting. The whole thing that spawned that, we were advocating for food trucks actually at a local city council meeting, and there was this man, oh my gosh, he was just terrible attitude. He was on the council. As a matter of fact, I believe he was with the fire marshal's office in this community, but he was just not a happy person. And I think he had his defense up the whole time because we were part of the Nashville Food Truck Association. And what people didn't realize was that the Nashville Food Truck Association also included the greater Nashville area. So all the little municipalities, the suburbs of Nashville, we had trucks that were part of our membership that were from those communities. But when you just hear the Nashville Food Truck Association, you may think, oh, that's just Nashville. That's not, Smyrna or Murfreesboro or whatever, Franklin, Brentwood. But it actually encompassed all of that. So we would go into these neighborhoods and go into these community council meetings. And I think that maybe made people in these smaller areas put up their defense mechanisms, like, why is Nashville here telling us what to do? And that's not what we were trying to do at all. We were just trying to educate and really advocate for the truckers in those areas, because some of the permits were getting out of hand, like upwards of $250, $300 to get these annual permits. And I think they realized it was a way to make money. So if people wanted to come in and serve in their communities, they could charge whatever they wanted, and we didn't have a choice. But this gentleman, oh my gosh, he was so angry the whole time we were there. And I remember him saying, like, sweetheart, if you don't like it, take it to the state. And that just lit something in me. And I was like, okay, all right, like, that's fine if that's how we want to do it. And I was just adamant that, like, we're going to take this thing to the state and we're going to do this. And I think I was just angry at that point because I was annoyed that he had the upper hand and just was kind of rubbing it in. But then we actually saw it through and we were able to do it. So I was so proud of that. But anyway, enough about the legislation. Craig's actually really busy on the food truck, and I did not expect to have to talk the whole time by myself. But we wanted to do this, even though he did have to work tonight, because we have a couple other things coming up this week, and we really wanted to get this launched for you guys, because one of the things, we're going to be actually going live on Sunday night with Matt Geller, who is the head of Best Food Trucks. He's also the president and founder of the National Food Truck Association. But Matt lives in LA. And as you've all seen on the news, there are massive wildfires happening in LA right now. And that is such a disaster. So sad what's happening out there. And so we're actually going to be chatting with him live on all of our socials. We'll be on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram on Sunday night, and just chat about how we can help. There's food trucks out in LA right now that are activating to serve. They're feeding victims of the fires, and we're going to talk to him about the best ways that people nationwide can actually help out and donate to that cause, spread the word about it, and just learn more about what's going on with food trucks there in LA during this crisis. That's definitely something that we're also passionate about, is serving. We've served through several crises here in Nashville, whether it be tornadoes, the bombing that happened in Nashville a few years ago. So there's been a lot of things that we've had to activate and go in afterwards and give away free food. And that was, that's always a good thing. It's always a good way to serve others. So we're going to talk to Matt about that on Sunday night. I'm not sure of the time just yet, but we really wanted to get this one out there for you guys, just to introduce ourselves and ramble on a little bit about our story, and then be able to bring you guys other stories from other folks. So I think it's going to be really good. We've actually got a few more people lined up to record next week as well. So it's just going to be a really good year. This is our goal for 2025, is to be a little bit more active on social media. It's hard when you run the business and you have to work the events and do the socials and pay the bills and be the admin and all the things. It's difficult to be a small business owner. So we are excited that we can launch this and hopefully bring the stories of those small businesses around us to the forefront. So, oh, wait, is he back? Wait, are you back?
I'm back.
Oh,
we got a little rush.
Oh, that's fine. I was just telling everyone that I think I'm going to go ahead and go, because I've talked about legislation and I've talked about all the things that we were able to do. So I wasn't prepared to talk by myself tonight. I know I rambled, guys, but I definitely was rambling on about the way it all went down, and how that old grumpy guy. Those old grumpy guys and old grumpy women, man, they're just getting me. But I definitely, I was talking about the legislation and finished up our story. And so I was telling also that we're going to have Matt on Saturday or Sunday night and talk about what's going on in LA. So we really wanted to get this one launched.
So awesome.
They won't always be on the truck, guys. This one's just a special kind of oops, because like I said, our schedule kind of crashed in here with this, but it was so nasty out. We did not want to make our poor girls come sit on the food truck today, but Craig's pulling a double today.
Yeah, it's fun. It's been a good day. We got some work done and it's been fun.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and sign off for this episode, our first episode of Street Food Stories. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe and listen on all the platforms. We would greatly appreciate it. Support small business and keep on trucking, y'all.